Hey, we are live and it's Monday night, and the Tilt Ladies are once again here to bring you all that inspiration and motivation and training that we can possibly give to you. And what would Monday night be without the tilters? If you're not tilting, you're wilting, right? Right? Now, we are going to be done at 9 o'clock tonight because our company has a huge announcement that we all have to listen into, and it starts at 9. So any of you that are on, please do not leave our hangout tonight early because we've got some epic news too. But Zen does. And on that note, I want to just say that tonight's title was based upon an awesome blog that Zen did a few days ago. She did it on freedom, and it was so inspiring. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, because isn't it the truth? As a doer, as a dreamer, as an entrepreneur, we really are looking for our freedom. And so many of us get it in so many different ways. And tonight we're going to touch on different ways that you can achieve your freedom, that you don't even realize that you need it, you require it, you should have it. So stick with us. Hi to all our regulars out there, and if you're new here tonight, for heaven's sakes, say hi to us, because we would love to say hi back to you, and join in with us. We're so glad to see you. So tonight, yes, freedom. What does freedom mean to you? Well, I'm going to start my talk off tonight with a story. Gee willikers, surprise, surprise, you know? But anyways, yeah, as most of you know, a few weeks ago, I was in Canada, and when I go up there, I typically stay with my daughter and my son-in-law and my grandson, who is 18 months old. And nothing was any different. I got there and I moved in with Jackie and Paul and baby Thomas, and their birthdays, Paul and Jackie's birthdays, were right when I was there. So I gave them a gift certificate to dinner and a movie. And I said, hey, you play your cards right and you use it right now, I will do babysitting for you too. So the day after I got there, they packed up, the two of them, and they took off for the day. They were going to be going on vacation soon, and they wanted to do some shopping before they went to the movie, etc. So I had all day with Thomas. Now, the last time I had seen him was back around Christmas time, and he was not even quite a year old then. So he was just learning to stand up, but now he's 18 months old, and he's like an F5 hurricane. He's just go, 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 you know, the Tasmanian devil, and keeping up to him, and busy, 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 which I didn't mind at all. I love that. But what I found was they were gone, and here I was in the house with him, and I started looking around, and I wanted to give him some yogurt, and I needed a spoon, and I couldn't get in the drawer because they had this these locks on the drawers and the cupboards, and I'm like, how do you get into these things? They're kid-proof, but they're also grandma-proof, you know? And at one point, I had to go into the restroom to use the restroom, and I couldn't get the toilet seat up. They had a lock on it, and I'm like, holy crappy-oly, like, I gotta go. How do you get this seat up, you know? And it was just, then I would run to go downstairs to throw in a load of laundry for them, and they had a gate on there that I couldn't get open. And every time I turned around, like I went to start to cook dinner for them, and there's knobs on the oven that just, the dials, they just spin around, and I'm like, how did she turn on the dials? Everything was like kid-proof and grandma-proof. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how I ever raised 3 kids, and they were 3.5 years apart, because I didn't have any of this stuff. I mean, probably that's why I've got so many pictures of my kids inside cupboards with Tupperware or pots and pans on their head and eating the dog biscuits, because I didn't have all these locks on the door. But I think the clinker came when I went to take him for a walk, and I had him in his stroller, and I went to go outside, and I couldn't get the door open because it had one of these spinny things on it. and I couldn't jerk it open. So I ran to the back door, and the same darn thing was on the back door, and I was trapped in this house with this child in a stroller, and I thought, how am I going to get out of here? Well, eventually I got the back door open. But what went through my head was, this is like being back trapped in my cubicle that I had been in for so many years before. And it just was reminiscent of being trapped and not liking it and just wanting to bust out and get my freedom. And I thought, man, I remember when I was working and I was in that destitute mood, if you want to say. You know, you can spend 40 hours a week doing something you love or that you hate. And a lot of people, like I was reading online the other day where the Washington Post tells us that 87% of us hate what we do for work. And the stats also say that only 27% of the graduates will find a job in their major. That's a good portion of our society that wakes up every single morning depressed about heading into a job they can't stand or doesn't fulfill them. You know, we live in a time, like our economy is recovering, but still good jobs are really hard to find. And the days of working at a job for 40 years and retiring with that solid pension, they're gone. They are gone. It's a struggle these days to find full-time work. And a lot of jobs are only hiring part-time workers so they can avoid paying benefits for them, employee benefits. Despite the circumstances, though, there are a growing group of people who wake up every day excited to do work. And that work is fulfilling and profitable. And I'm happy to be one of those people. You know, it took about 2 years and a lot of hustle, but I'm living my freedom. I wake up every single day excited to write and speak and coach. And for 10 years, I hated where I worked. And there were years before that, but that was my most recent job. And it was 10 years, and I hated where I worked. And it affected every other area of my life. Day in and day out, I dealt with a job and a boss, the boss in particular, that added unbelievable stress and anger into my life. But once I broke free, well, it took about a year to heal. It really did. I thought I was healed the minute I walked out of there, but it really took about a year to heal from that. But I have lived what I'm talking to you about right now, so please listen up to me. This is the advice that helped me break free. Your feelings are a warning sign, so don't ignore them. Don't. Let me repeat that. Your feelings are a warning sign, so don't ignore them. You feel the way you do about your work for a reason. It's an alarm going off that is very dangerous to ignore it. And the important part is, you know, figuring out what kind of an alarm it is. For example, there's a difference between having a bad day and hating your job. Bad days happen in every job. Feelings from a bad day will fade away. When you wake up, though, for days on end, disgusted with where you have to go to make an income, that's the alarm that shouldn't be ignored. Take some time to acknowledge those feelings, and what about your job is it that makes you feel that way? That's the first step in identifying what you want from your work. Try and figure out what you don't like about what you're doing, okay? And that will start to lead you towards what you really do want to do. And it's easy. I mean, you have access to the information that can help you. With the internet and social media, you have like unparalleled access to knowledge. And if you own a smartphone, you have all the wealth in the world right in your palms. So you can Google jobs, or you can Google the type of work that you want, and it will show you the exact steps that you need to do in order to obtain that. So you can find or you can create work that you enjoy, and with the knowledge comes the opportunity to find the job that you want. So it'll take a little bit of work. It's not easy, but you can find a job that you want. But there's one more thing. You can also start a dream business. Start that business online and on the side. It will keep the cost down and give you an opportunity to reach a massive potential customer base. You can grow this business to an offline location if you need to, but really and truthfully, online businesses, they offer so much flexibility. The point is, there is an opportunity if you're willing to go after it. So, freedom is more important than money. Oh, man, hear me again. Freedom is more important than money. Money is important in our lives. I'm not going to say it's not. We needed to pay bills and to have fun, but it shouldn't be a crutch to stay in a job that we hate because it pays well. We should strive for financial freedom that allows us to spend each day on the things that are important to the kind of life we want, whether that is being a stay-home mom, whether that is being able to travel the world, whether that is being able to have your own business. That is what is important to you, the financial freedom, okay? Money is a byproduct of a life well lived. It's not the main component. Experience and freedom are what we'll appreciate the most as we grow older, and I can attest to that. Experience and freedom. Not how much stuff we had or how much money we accumulated. Material possessions, they're so fleeting. So don't stay at a job you hate just to accumulate stuff. The biggest piece of advice I can give is do not wait to do this. Life is too short to spend years of your life miserable. Man, I wish I had done it sooner. Those feelings will have an effect on all those that are around you, on your partner, on your children, even on your animals. You can come in miserable some days. Once I quit my very well-paying job, I was able to breathe so much easier. I can truly appreciate life because I don't have that anchor weighing me down all the time. And this all starts with what you believe and what you do about that belief. If you believe nothing can change, you won't do anything. You won't. If you believe you can, and you should want more from your work, you will start to take the necessary steps to your freedom. And I so hope you choose to believe, because that's how you're going to get your freedom. So, yeah, at that, I'm going to pass it on now to Zen, because I want her to come up next. She's got a really important part to add to this. And can you take it away, Zen?
Yeah, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just perfectly.
Okay. Well, I think I'll start by reiterating what the 5 types of freedom are, because I wrote the blog post, and I was just sitting around one day thinking, what are the ways that I really and truly want to be free? And of course, financial always comes straight to mind because people don't want to leave their jobs over the finances. And I could say Nettie already covered all that, and it'd be true because she covered it very well. But money is not as important as freedom to experience life. Of course, we need the basic monthly, nut covered, whatever that is. But true freedom comes from having enough to cover that and to have freedom of movement. Okay, and that leads me to time, location, brain, and creative. Okay, so time, freedom of time. When you have that freedom and you have finances somewhat under control, I mean, we don't want you out in the street spending your last dollar to attempt to do business, but there are ways to get money to help you do your business and maintain, a lifestyle of freedom while you're gaining your huge lifestyle of freedom, okay? But time freedom is, it is of the, for your psyche. I mean, I remember sitting on a plane next to a woman telling her about what I did about 6 months ago, and she said, yeah, this job of mine is robbing my psyche. Powerful words, right? It's ruining my psyche. because she carries that over to relationships with partners, kids, the kids that she teaches, because she's a teacher, and it's just robbing her soul. So who wants their soul robbed? You know, we have a few people on our team right now that are about to leave their jobs permanently and segue into the business full time. Now, do whatever you need to do, but the truth is that sometimes your job is just a soul sucker. And if you can figure out a way to get yourself moving straight away so that you cover at least what you probably had with that job, or just create the freedom that, you know, maybe you don't need to commute anymore, so you don't really need a car, or you don't really need TV, or whatever it takes, okay? Because it's more important to have what I call the brain part. And I looked that up, and brain may not be the accurate word, but to me, number one on my list, and I've checked my lists over the years, number one for me of what I want in life has always been peace of mind. Always. I can check back journals from years ago. Number one, peace of mind. And that's your brain, because if you have a lot of stuff, even if you have a lot of time, even if you have freedom to be creative all the time, if you don't have an inner core strength, a place to be peaceful, and whether that's through meditation or just, you know, I call life a walking meditation at this point. I try to find the good in everything, including my struggles, okay? So to me, it's about peace of mind, always. Number one, quiet. So, and the last one is creative, and that is 3 times a day at least you're saying, I have an idea. And it could be about business, it could be about pleasure, it doesn't matter what it is. But every day you have quite a few great ideas, okay? Now I'm going to come to the punchline, because this is huge. This is epic in my life. And my hands are sweating right now. And I'm feeling a little short of breath, and I'm sweating. It is hot out, but you know what? I'm about to make a major move, okay? And this position that I've taken with having, you know, with our company that we work with, and being in network marketing and being online, the reason why I did it wasn't totally clear to me at the time, but I had a formulation in my mind because I wanted freedom of location, and I knew that. And I knew from living in Singapore years ago that Wi-Fi is pretty much everywhere, at least in in some third world countries even. You can get a cafe with internet, hookup. So I'm going to give you the punchline real quick. We have an opportunity to take my girl and put her in a school in another country. Now, I know she wouldn't go without me. So we're moving in August to Shenzhen, which is a half an hour outside of Hong Kong. So, you know, the part that I'm not even nervous about it, because I've been through this moving thing before. We moved to Singapore. Now, when you own a home, and you leave that home and you rent it out and you go to Singapore, somewhere new, and it's interesting because it was somewhere brand new. We knew no one there, but we had a house to come back to. Now we've sold that house. We're in an apartment, and we're going to clean out this apartment. I'm going to come back in September and do that, but first I'm going to get her set up there, get an apartment there, come back, clean up this place, and go back. Meanwhile, put her in school. But the interesting thing is when you leap off and do something completely different like that, you don't have a house to come back to, you don't have any of that, well, you had better have that peace of mind, right? Because this school is for her for 2 years. Now, after 2 years, I have no idea if I'll come back to this beautiful place called Palos Verdes, or if I'll just find somewhere new. You never know. Bali's nearby. A quick flight away from Shenzhen. But what this position, this idea of working on my own, being an entrepreneur and doing what I want when I want to do it has done for me, has allowed me to, when that idea was presented for my daughter, say yes. Just say yes. And so I'm really pleased to make that announcement because I'm thrilled. I'm an adventurer from the word go. And living in Singapore, the only horrible part about it was that we came back after 2 years. Now, to me, it's like without a house and an anchor back here, part of me gets sweaty just thinking about that. And the other part goes, yeah, you go. Because there's so many places on this planet to go visit and become a part of and make a part of you. And I love travel. So for me, this is like the ultimate. And you will get pictures of me in Starbucks around Shenzhen, Hong Kong, and all over China, and all Eastern territories that I love to travel to. So I'm going to wrap it up with that. If you're not already interested in being on your own and starting a business for any other reason, time freedom, financial freedom, inner peace of mind, brain freedom, and creative freedom, well, then think about locations, because you too could move wherever you want to. I don't care. Throw a dart at the map, but we pick Shenzhen. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm thrilled for my daughter. She has a fantastic opportunity, and I'm thrilled for myself because we get to explore somewhere new. And I just love that cultural kind of immersion like that. So I'm going to pass it off to Nettie once again. Thank you.
Wow, Zen. Isn't that the biggest badass news that you guys have heard today and in a long time? I am so proud of her and so envious too. Sam and my dream is to live 6 months in New Zealand and 6 months back here, and I'm going to get there. And, you know, you've just given me the boot too, Zen, to know that we can do this. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Huge.
And my daughter just walked in and fist bumped me because she heard the whole laugh. This is my girl.
I was like, I know what we're talking about.
So let me ask you this then before we move on. What time will tilt be for you over there?
It will be 11 a.m. on a Tuesday morning.
Well, how sweet is that?
I know. It's actually
we're still working on poor Erica. She can go move with you or move this way, you know, and make it easy.
Exactly.
Holy cow. Well, hats off and proud of you, and it's going to be a blast. So
yeah, and here's the fun part is I'm going to try and be on every tilt no matter where I'm traveling during that time. I'll pull over and be in a cafe in Shenzhen or wherever I need to be because it'll be fun.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. And isn't that the truth? Like, because of the lifestyle that we do have the freedom to work from anywhere, but in a car.
I loved it because I didn't even have to think twice. I didn't even have to think twice. It was, if she wants that, I will go. I'm completely down with that. And I didn't have to think, oh, how would I wrap up my job? Oh, how do I give up that? Or how do I do this? Or how would I maneuver that? Or can I get a transfer? None of that. My transfer is my laptop, which I'm talking to you on right now, and that in and of itself to me is very awesome. That, and I can fly to Bali very quickly from there, and I'm super excited about that.
Go to Bali and invite us all over.
Okay? Oh, there's a plan. Mastermind. I sense a mastermind coming on.
Yep, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to move right along now to Morgan. And, yes, she's in a country that I dearly want to live in, too, so go for it.
I'm just stunned by your news, then. I had to, this is kind of embarrassing, but I just had to Google Shenzhen. I wasn't sure where it was. So it's in China. That's incredible. Oh, my God, I can't believe it. And do you know what? You're going to be, it's 12 noon here right now, so you're 11 a.m. You know, we're only an hour difference, which is quite cool. Good time zone. That's awesome. That just it made me think, which I haven't really thought about before. My husband is a rugby coach, and you know, rugby coaches always, they do their time in New Zealand, and then they always have opportunities overseas, you know, in Italy and Japan and things like that. And that hasn't come up yet, but no doubt in the future it probably will. And just knowing that I'm going to be in a position to be able to say to him, you know what, let's go, you know, and I'm not going to be tied to a job, and we're not going to have commitments that outweigh our income, which is quite often the case, I think, with people these days. They have mortgages that are so big that if you're in that situation, I would have to say, oh, well, I can't leave my lawyer job earning $200,000 a year because our mortgage is, you know, $1,000 a week or $2,000 a week, and we just wouldn't be able to do it, you know. So it's just such a freeing feeling to just be reminded just what you've just exactly described. You can be earning really good money on the internet, obviously after, you know, time and effort and work, because it doesn't come overnight, but you can take up those opportunities when they are given to you. And I think the more that you put yourself in a situation like all of us girls are, and all the, you know, people in Tilden, all the people in our company are, the more that those opportunities will arise, because they won't come your way if you're not ready for them, you know. So I think that's just so incredible, and it also gets me thinking about, you know, my little babies who are only 10 months old, and I wouldn't be leaving them yet for the world, but, you know, if they have an opportunity like that to go on an exchange or something like that, I want to be able to do that as well. I want to be able to say, you know, let's do it. Let's just go, and, you know, my career wouldn't be jeopardized. And this business is a career. It's not some flash in the pan thing. It's something you work hard for, and it takes time, and you build, you know, your empire and your legacy and your followers and your list and your product sales, and it takes time. And you want to take that with you. Why would you want to give that up? If you've got to move country for your family, it seems sad to have to leave a part of you behind in your career as a lawyer or as a whatever you were doing, you know. So I think it's just so awesome that you can contain your own passions in a portable machine, if you like, your own, you know, portable money-making machine, and it can go to any cafe in the world, or, you know, down to your local coffee shop or halfway across the world. And I just want to say when I went to Vegas in January for one of the events, the freest I've felt in a long time was when I was in Vegas, and I hadn't been to the event yet. It was like the day before, and I was in my hotel, and I walked outside to the waterfront, and it was just beautiful. The sun was shining, and I shot a video, and I don't know, I just, at the time, I thought it was the best video of my whole life, because I just felt so good. And I can't even remember what I said now, but it was the first time that I had experienced my own personal freedom, being away from my family, being, you know, on my own, going to meet people I hadn't met before, you know, I only met them online. And the freedom that's associated with that is just, it's better than any drug you'll ever take. It's amazing. It's just like you're full of life, and it's, you know, for me, that was real freedom in that moment, and I'm so grateful for that experience, and I'm sure there'll be many more experiences. But to be able to record it on video and have other people watch it and say, wow, you know, you looked so inspired, it's incredible. I've been listening to a bit of Deepak Chopra I don't even know if I said his name right, the last couple of weeks. And, you know, everyone talks about him, and I hadn't actually read any of his books or listened to any of his stuff, so I listened to, I think it was the 7 Spiritual Secrets of Life or something like that on YouTube, one of his audiobooks. And one of the things that he said, which really I thought was just profound and amazing, is, and I wrote this on my status the other day, something you can say to a 4-year-old. And obviously, because I've got young children, it resonated with me straight away. And what he said is what he did to his kids. And he said to them from the age of about 4, as soon as they started understanding, he said to them, why are you here? Why are you on this earth? And you know, it sounds like a bizarre thing to say to a child, but if you can start to say that to them at a young age, and then he would go on and he would say, it is your job to figure out why you're on this earth. So this little 4-year-old's running around thinking, why am I here? Why am I here? You know, why am I on this earth? And as they get older, you keep reinforcing that, you know. And another thing he said was, there is no other person on this earth who can do a particular thing, a particular way, with the same skill and the same, you know, amazing passion that you can do it. And he, you know, drilled that into them as well. So basically he said to them, you're down here for a reason. You have to figure out what that reason is, and you have to figure out what that particular thing is that you can do better than anybody else. And when you find that thing, it's your passion, and it's going to make you your livelihood. And he said, I will fund your lifestyle. If it comes down between money and finding your passion, don't worry about money. I will fund your lifestyle, because it's not about money. The goal isn't money, because when you find that one thing that I was talking about, the money will flow. And he was so, you know, sure about that. And I just, when I heard that, I said it to my husband, and he was a bit blank because he's not as spiritual as I am. He kind of took it in, but kind of not. But that's okay. That's just him, and I'm trying to train him. But and I just thought that was the most amazing thing. And I don't really know what relevance this has to freedom, but I guess it's that freedom of mind is something that I think is just so important. And having that thing that you do that just gives you the freedom of mind, gives you that passion, that I don't know, where you can think for yourself, you can think creatively, because when you're in a job, this is how I compare it to. When you're in a job, you get given instructions, right? It's like, okay, do this, then do this. You might get a list. If you're a secretary, you might get a pile of papers, or even if you're a lawyer and you're working autonomously, it's still, here's your cases, your clients come in. It's still, you still don't get to think freely. When you're an entrepreneur, there is no list, there is no pile, there is no schedule, there is no checklist. You can make them for yourself, but you have that freedom, and with that freedom, I think, comes creativity, and with creativity it's a cycle. Creativity creates energy, and energy, creates whatever it creates. I'm not really sure what I'm talking about, but it's all just coming out, and I'm loving what I'm saying. So it's just, freedom is just that. It's creativity, it's positivity, it's being able to, as Zen said, have that freedom of location, not having the restriction. The one thing I haven't talked about, which is the most important thing to me, really, which I haven't actually said, is having that freedom to be with your kids, and that's obviously one of the most important reasons why I'm, on this quest for freedom with my internet business, because you can have that freedom to raise your kids the way you want to raise them. And I think the saddest thing, and this is a personal experience, the saddest thing that there is sadder than this, but this is something that really touched my heart. When I was working, one of our secretaries at our firm, she had a 5-year-old daughter, and she worked, I think, 8 till 5 every single day. And her daughter wasn't able to do any after-school activities because she had nobody to take her to the after-school activities. Now, it's not a third world problem, but it's just something that's very real, because that child's now missing out on soccer practice or dance or going to a friend's house, or all the things that kids should be able to do from the time of 3 till 6 p.m. before they go home. She doesn't get any of that, and yes, she goes to after school care and she probably plays games and that, but I think this particular lady was actually, she kind of, I don't know, she didn't really seem to care, and I'm sure she did, but she probably just got over it, because that's life, like that. She probably had drummed into herself, that is life, and I've got to work this job because I've got to support my kids, and so they don't get to go to after school care, and that's the reality. Whereas I don't think of it like that. I don't think that it should be, it's not a decision you should make that this is how it is. You can't just decide, well, I've got to support my kids, so this is how it is, and they don't get to go to after school care. When you train your mind in a different way, and when you see things in a different light, you don't think like that, and you say to yourself, instead of saying this is how it is, you say, how can it be different? How can she go to after school care? How can she go to soccer practice? How can she go to dance? And your mind opens, and in that moment of it opening, the ideas flow in, and that's when life changes. And I guess the reason I told you that story is because she's stifled by her job, this particular lady. She doesn't have the freedom of creativity. She doesn't have the freedom to even think like that. And without that train of thought and that thinking, it's kind of, ideas don't come to you, and your life remains as it is. So I've just given you a lot of ideas, all kind of waffled, nothing really cohesive, but that's okay. I'm going to pass it back to Nettie. Hope that you guys enjoyed that.
I really enjoyed it. I could particularly relate to when you got to the children part. I was blessed to be able to be a stay-home mom, and my kids never missed a beat. They never missed a soccer practice, a baseball practice, skating, dancing, field trip, whatever it was, because I was able to be there. And I remember saying to their dad at one point when they were, I don't know, 10 or 11, something like that, getting a little older. Maybe they were even, the youngest was maybe even 12. And I remember saying, if I had worked, we would have so much more right now, materialistic things. And he just slapped me right back to shape with his remark. He said, but think of what you would have missed with them. You wouldn't have seen those first steps, those first words, those being able to take them here and there and everything. And so to just accept that that's the way it's going to be for your child, and I guess in my way of thought, you know what, I did get those materialistic things later on in life. They don't mean that much to me, but when I think back to those years, I do remember those soccer practices. I do remember those skating practices. I remember going to the school activities, just like Zen heading off to China with her 16-year-old daughter. Do you not think those two are going to remember that the rest of their life? I mean, it's just so, so super important that do not let a job dictate a nightmare of a life for us. So that's just all I've got to add to that. But I thought what you told us was brilliant. And keep working on your hubby. And yes, I like Deepak. You know, that guy that you said, I listen to him too. Oh my gosh. Anyways, okay, Kristen, my dear, you're up. So let's hear from you.
Awesome, Nettie. Thank you. And please let me know, like, some of your audio is fine, but I think my internet is really slow here. So let me know if I break up at all. But I don't know. Freedom, I've been sitting here thinking about it because, to be honest with you, I'll tell you where I've been today, is I was actually at the nursing home because my grandmother is, she's in, like, assisted living, but she has Alzheimer's, and she's not adjusting to a new unit that they moved her on. So I've been trying to get over there more to be able to see her and try to help with what I can help with. I don't really know, as of today, I don't know if it's going to work because, needless to say, we ended up calling the paramedics and all that stuff after she hit me. It's a long story, but here's my point to it. Actually, there's a few points to it. Number one, yes, she has been blessed to be able to live a very long life, 92 years old. But at this point, she has lost all freedom. She doesn't have her mind. She doesn't have freedom of anything. So why we wait until we're 65 to quit our jobs and to try to live a life, it makes no sense to me. Like, I look at my grandma and I'm like, her whole retirement years have been filled with dementia and, you know, I mean, she lived a good life and she's a happy person and she's blessed. But I look at how we procrastinate and I look at how we think, well, we'll change it tomorrow. We'll change it to tomorrow. Well, when we're like old and have Alzheimer's and can't travel the world, like, it makes no sense to me. My second point is, if I hadn't made the choices, sometimes, you know, you question, like, am I really where I'm supposed to be? And, you know, I look at my life and I'm like, well, maybe I should have moved by now. Maybe I should have, like, done what Zen did and completely, like, you know, go to a new country, do something completely different, though I'm still trying to work out how to get my dog there. And then stuff like this happens, and I'm like, no, I have the freedom. I'm the only one in my family to have the freedom to be able to go over on a Monday afternoon and stay with my grandma. I'm the only one who has the freedom on Tuesday to be able to go and sit with my grandma if she needs me. Because I have the opportunity to switch around and work when I want to work. And that's priceless. But I want to kind of get back to a little bit as to, like, what freedom is to me. And it has, I think, kind of a lot of what Morgan was saying. You know, she kind of touched on all of them: financial, time, location, brain, and creativity. And the biggest thing for me is you can't have one type of freedom without the other. So I want to start with financial freedom because, you know, a lot of people will say that money's not the most important thing. And I agree, money is not the most important. If I look at all the types of freedoms, financial freedom to me is not the most important. Money is not the most important thing to me. Here's the thing, though. Without financial freedom, you can't have the other freedoms. It's just not going to happen. If you don't have the financial freedom, you're not going to be able to locate and move wherever you want. You're not going to be able to travel the world. Without financial freedom, you don't have that creativity. You don't have that time freedom. Because what is time freedom? Time freedom is being free from a job. Because the bottom line is if you go to work and you have to sit in an office for 8 to 10 hours a day, you do not have time freedom. But you can't quit your job unless you're financially free or you have some other way to make money. So all the freedoms are related. One impacts the other. But for me, freedom is this. I mentioned this in our hangout last week when we were talking about disconnecting in order to learn how to reconnect, I said, in my opinion, a lot of people don't like to disconnect because they don't like to be left with their own minds. And I want you to think about yourself, or hopefully not yourself, because I'm hoping that our viewers are beyond this. But even though I find myself caught up in this a little bit, and that is you wake up in the morning and you have to get ready for work. This is like the average American, okay, or average person. They have to get up for work. Okay, so they have to put clothes on that they had to go out and find money to buy. Then they have to get into a car that they have to put gas in. So they have to have money for a car for gas for their car. My point being is, if you look throughout the day, no matter how you live your life, you have to have money. So if you struggle financially, you cannot be free from that. Your mind cannot be free to not worry about money. You're going to worry about how to put food on your table. And then people are saying, well, you know what, I get by. Look, I have a budget. Me and my husband, we do great. Yeah, because you spend your whole entire day cutting coupons. Again, that's not financial freedom. That's not time freedom to have to spend 2 hours a day cutting coupons, which I've never understood. So I know if you took that 2 hours and invested it into a business, you wouldn't need to cut coupons. Just saying. But again, it's all about creating a life. For me, freedom is creating a life, creating a way of living where my mind is free. And I think, again, that brain freedom, I don't know exactly what Zen was referring to in that, but I'm going to just say mind freedom, where I can wake up in the morning and I don't have to worry. I don't have to stress. You don't have to choose between going to a job or staying home with your kids. You don't have to choose between you staying at home from work. Here's the thing. Yes, it's great that women are blessed to be stay-at-home moms, but what about the husbands? I mean, I know I have friends who their husbands work 80, 100 hours a week. Yeah, that enables the wife to be able to stay at home, the mom to stay at home, but what about the dad? Kids miss out. He misses out. So I guess I kind of feel like Morgan today. I have so many thoughts going through my head that I can't, I'm having a hard time expressing it, because freedom is such a big deal. I look at people. Okay, here's an example. There's this show, which I probably shouldn't admit on our freedom call that I watch TV, but I do every now and then turn the TV on. But I'll tell you my trick. For those who can't give up TV completely, if you really love a show, DVR it, record it. That's my trick. I record shows so that way I can fast forward through all of the stuff I don't want to listen to, and I can fast forward through all the commercials. So it takes like an hour-long show, and it literally cuts it down to about 25 minutes usually. So there's this show called Chopped. And the whole premise is that you have 4 different people, and they get all these basket ingredients, and they have to cook whatever's in the basket. And it goes like they start with an appetizer, then one person gets cut, and they have to do the dinner, and then one person gets cut, and 2 people compete for dessert. And whoever wins $10,000. And I was watching this show because I just think it's absolutely amazing. There's foods on there that I've never heard of, and so I just think it's amazing to watch these people cook foods that I've never heard of, and I always try to imagine what I would do with it. And usually it comes out with, I would have to Google it because I wouldn't have any idea. But here's the one running theme that I have seen throughout all of these types of shows. Every single person who talks about winning $10,000, I would say 80% of the people say, well, I want to blow it on a trip to Italy. Or I really want to go visit my family back in Portugal, or wherever. And the whole point is they want one thing to do with that $10,000. I have yet to hear anybody say, I'm going to take that $10,000 and invest it to make it become $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000. And what that tells me is they do not have freedom of the mind. They have not learned how to, they haven't learned. So that is my point. I'm glad I said that because that was my point that I wanted to sum everything up with. I was reading Poor Dad, Rich Dad, or Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I always forget which comes first. And he talked about that. He said, his rich dad taught him that he has to learn a little about a lot, which is kind of backwards in our business because in our business we talk about mastering one thing. But the whole point to me is freedom is learning about a lot so that you can experience life. Learn how to invest so that you can have financial freedom. Learn how to build your own business so that you can have time freedom. Learn how to be creative so that you can just have that freedom of the mind where you're not sitting worrying and being fearful and being resistant to life. Freedom to me is being able to disconnect and be by myself completely in the quiet, meditate, and be at peace with who I am and where I'm at in life and what I'm doing. So I'm going to leave it at that and just say, to me, that's what freedom is. And when I look at people around me and I watch them and I listen to them, you recognize that people don't have this. People don't have that freedom of the mind where their life is just consumed with their worries, with their fears, and with the resistance they have towards change and learning. So my one biggest tip to creating freedom in your life is to learn. Go out and pick up a book, go listen to audio, do something that is going to bring you one step closer to the freedom that you not only, I'm sure, want, but more importantly, the freedom that you deserve. So, back to you, Natty.
Powerful. Very powerful, Kristen. You always say before we start, for those that watch us, Kristen always says, I don't have anything prepared for tonight. I'm just going to wing it. Doesn't she blow it out of the water every single time? I mean, you always come with it. You just bat the ball out of the park. Awesome. I loved it. And I'm not a coupon clipper either, but I do know some people that are. But anyways, so Miss E, Erica, how would you like to wrap it up for us, please?
It's always hard going last. I should. Say again, darling.
That's what you want.
I know. I just, the first thing I want to start with is the title of this, tonight's hangout is "What does freedom mean to you?" So for everyone in the chat, you have heard 4 amazing speakers share what all the different freedoms are and what they mean for them. Let us know in the chat roll now what freedom means to you. You may have come onto this hangout tonight with one version of what freedom means to you, but now you may have a whole lot of different versions. So please let us on the panel know what freedom means to you. I would love to read that after we wrap up here. So a couple of things came to mind when this subject was released, and I was reading. It's really funny that we should have chosen this topic because I actually saved Zen's blog on my desktop so I could read it again. It was that good because it really got me to thinking, what does freedom mean to us, And it's not just about financial freedom. I think, who was it? I think someone, Morgan or Kristen said, you can't have all of the other freedoms without financial freedom, and it's so true. And I think what so many people get caught up on is the fact they think that financial freedom is this big number, and it really doesn't have to be a big number. Financial freedom, literally, the definition of financial freedom is when your monthly passive income exceeds your monthly bills. That's it. And I always remember reading Tony Robbins talk about this. He goes, if you want to be more financially abundant, move to a cheaper state. If you're living in New York City and it's too expensive, go to somewhere else, go to Montana. And I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Like, you can become financially abundant by moving states, right? And I just love, oh my God, did my jaw just like drop to the floor when Zen made a big announcement? She didn't tell any of us. What a cheeky little monkey. She was going for that live effect, right? And as soon as she said that, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. To move from the US to China, like, oh my God, the mind boggles at all of the freedoms that creates, right? So Zen, congratulations, sweetheart. I just can't wait to hug you in Vegas. I'm so excited. Oh my God. That's freedom, right? To be able to make a decision at the drop of a hat. And when I was thinking about what freedom means for me, it means I can breathe. I can breathe. I remember, I want to tell you a quick story. I remember being on cruise ships, and who mentioned this? Someone mentioned, like freedom being about having money and having a corporate job and everything. Trust me, money's not it. I'll never forget the moment when it really, really hit me. I've probably told this story before, but if you're new here, it'll be fresh for you. So if you've heard it before, please bear with me for a couple of moments. But I had been struggling with what is my purpose. And Morgan mentioned this book, darling, it's the best book I've ever read. I've read this so many times, it's so beautiful. It's the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, and Morgan mentioned this. You're here on this life for a reason. You have a divine purpose. But when you're caught up in your corporate work, your corporate job, whatever it is you're doing that doesn't allow you to tap into your true purpose, you're dying on the inside. You are dying on the inside. And I remember I had bouts of depression. Think about it. I'm on an exotic cruise ship. I'm going to some of the most exotic islands on the planet, or I'm off in Europe, or I'm in Alaska, and I'm depressed. I remember we had one itinerary. We had 2 sea days on the front, which means work days. We had 5 port days in the middle, which means I am off. Like, I don't have to work for 5 days. And then I've got 2 sea days on the back end. Do you know what I used to do for some of those 5 days? I would go into my bedroom, because we had no windows on this one contract I was doing. I would put the covers over my head, and I would just pray that one day this is all over. I remember thinking, this is insanity. I have a dream job. I have jobs that other people would kill to have, and I'm so depressed. And I remember thumping my fists on my bed one day, and I said to my husband, why am I here? What am I doing? What's my purpose? And he's so beautiful. He hadn't done any reading at this point, but he's a really smart guy. And he said to me, honey, your purpose is to give joy. Every time you sell a painting, you sell joy. It's the way you do it. It's the way you stroke the frame. It's the stories you tell. It's the stories you weave. You sell joy. And I thump my hands on the bed, and I'm like, but there has to be more, right? There has to be more. And he was tapping into something. He was tapping into something he could see in me that I couldn't see. I couldn't see it. And I remember the biggest turning point for me, before we had our biggest turning point, but the biggest turning point that made me start thinking, babes, we've got to get out of here, was the day I had to go to work. And I was all dressed up in my beautiful silk suit, and I had diamonds dripping everywhere, and I'm the shit, right? Everyone would look at me like, oh man, she's the shit. I didn't think I was a shit, but they would look at me like that, right? Because that was the image I projected, right? And I remember I had these beautiful stilettos on. They used to kill my feet, but I had to wear them. And I was walking to work. I had a big auction planned. There was a lot of money on the ship that day. I knew we were going to make a shitload of money. And my feet felt like they had concrete, chunks of concrete on them. And it was a long corridor to get to the auction room. And I remember that every foot that I moved forward felt like I was dragging this concrete weight on every foot. And I felt like I was in quicksand, and I couldn't get anywhere. And by the time I got to the end of the corridor, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Like, my heart was beating, and I'm like, okay, something is really wrong here. And it hit me. I'm freaking depressed. Like, I'm depressed. And there was such a wake-up call. How could I be depressed with my dream job, my dream location, money just pouring out of the rafters every time I did an auction? How could I be depressed? And it's because I wasn't living my life on true purpose. I wasn't living my life with passion. I was kidding myself that any of this meant anything. And that was when we started looking for ways to escape. We started looking for ways to be free. And let me tell you, that was a nightmare in and of itself, because everything we looked at was another noose around our neck. Every job opportunity we looked at was another noose. Every business opportunity we looked at was another noose. Nothing was going to give me the freedom that I was looking for. I needed that freedom of expression, that freedom of creativity that Zen was talking about, you know, the brain freedom. But to do that, I also needed financial freedom, because if I didn't have any money coming in, I couldn't have the creative freedom. And I wanted geographic freedom. I wanted to visit all these islands. I wanted to visit, you know, Europe. I wanted to do all these things on my terms, not when the ship bloody well decided it was going to take me somewhere, or when my boss decided he would give me a contract in the area that I wanted to be. I didn't have freedom. I had no freedom. Everyone else was pulling my strings, right? When we found this business, all of a sudden, my eyes bulged at the possibilities and the potential. There is no box around my laptop. There is no box around my laptop. I can take this baby anywhere. And when I got that, when I truly got that this lifestyle could bring me so many freedoms. It could bring me financial freedom. It could bring me time freedom to express myself. It could bring me creative freedom to truly express all the magnificence that God put into me, put into you, put into everyone. When I got that, my mind exploded with the possibilities of everything that we as a community can achieve here. This is what freedom's about. Freedom of expression, freedom of movement, freedom to just be who you were meant to be, to allow all of that beautiful creativeness that's within you to simply come out. You can't be creative when you're pissed off, when you're depressed, when you're angry, when you're irritable, when you're just fighting life. You can't be that beautiful creative expression of you. You can't. And you were put on this planet to do something so, so very special. If you have not read this book yet, 7 Laws of Spiritual Success, grab it. It is so powerful. And it talks about the fact that you have a unique purpose on this planet. You were put here for a divine reason. When you have the financial freedom that creates the time freedom to explore what that is, your life will never be the same again. And it's not about money. Oh my God, I know we always say this and it sounds so chintzy. Oh, it's not about money. It's really not though. It's not about the money. You can be so much happier. Like for me with my corporate job, man, I had oodles of it and I could have slit my wrists. I was that depressed. Money doesn't make you happy. I remember when we were on ships, and I'll close with this because we are going to a very important event now. Alex and I would sit in our cabin on the ship and would say, babes, wouldn't it be amazing just to be able to have a picnic beside the river with a dog? We did that the other day. And he grabbed my hand and he said, do you remember when we were on ships? And we were dreaming about, just having a picnic by the river. We couldn't see a dog, right? And we looked over at this blessed little creature, and he said, we did it. We did it. There is no financial gain in that sentence. It was the vision of being free to sit by a river, have a picnic with a dog, and no ship's horn calling us back. We were in control of our lives. We were in control of our destiny. And that's what we do here. We provide the vehicle, the platform for you to be free, to do whatever the effort is you want to do, whenever you want to do it. And darlings, on that note, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope that the entire panel has inspired you to persist in whatever it is you're doing until you get what you want. Darlings, I love you so much. I'll see you on the next call. And if you're going to Vegas, I'll see you there. Love you. Ciao.
Thanks so much, Erica. I loved your story. I love the part about the dog. I can't help but I know how much joy they bring to us. You see, people, freedom, no matter what kind of freedom that you're looking for, ultimately freedom equals happiness. It just does. And so that's what you want. You only go around once in this life. And I heard Kristen say, I don't know why people wait till they're 65. I waited till I was 64. Well, 63 and a half or something like that. And you've heard me say a million times, I wished I hadn't waited that long. But in a way, I guess I'm glad I did, because I found this. I found these people. I found this home, and that's what's out there for the rest of you. It was my time, and now it's your time. So if you're looking for something that you can work towards getting your freedom, for heaven's sakes, get on board with us, Total Inspired Living Tribe. Click that button below that says let's get started, or get back to the person, whoever invited you here tonight, and talk to them, and they'll tell you how to get in. But don't wait. Do not wait. Your freedom is just that close. It's that close, and it's so wonderful. So anyways, I have to wrap it up, gang, because we've got to go. But thank you so much for being here. We hope that we've inspired you, motivated you. Go after, kick that freedom. Get it, get it, get it. And click that button and get started with us. So see you next week. Same time, same place, different topic. And love you all. Bye now. Take care.